LA Little, and this is your daily TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets from a neoclassical perspective and ask ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about tomorrow. I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the beautiful Rocky Mountains. Folks, tomorrow I'm going to take a day off. I've been under the weather, kind of struggling, but Halloween, going to take a day off. So no show tomorrow. I'll be back Sunday, hopefully fully recovered, ready to roll, but just a heads up on that. So as far as the markets, what did we do today? Well, we actually got a change. A change indeed. So we've been watching, wondering, waiting for a long time for a clear set of signals, right? To tell us that this market was done going up. Today it was down, not much, right? I mean, the NDX was only down 0.2%, but there's some stuff going on underneath the covers here we need to look at tonight. So we're down, what is this, 61.5 on the industrials today, 15,618 and 3/4. S&P's 8.6 lower, 1763 and a third. We had the composite down 21 3/4, 3930 and a half. We had the NDX 6 and a third lower, 3385 and a third, and the Russell. Oh my, the Russell was the loser. 1.3, almost 1.4% lower, 15 and a half. Closes at 1105.50. The Russell's been the leader. The Russell has been the index, giving us the cleanest signals for at least 3 weeks now. And matter of fact, we haven't had very many clean signals for 3 weeks. I think I remember 2 sets of them, and both of them failed. And that's not always the way it is. I mean, sometimes that happens, but a lot of times you just don't get signals that are clean enough to let you do anything with them. So what I want to show you tonight is what is lining up as some clean signals finally. And they're pointing to the downside. So let's start with the indexes. And I actually haven't got a chance to look at the sectors, but I think they're going to show pretty much the same thing. But let's start with the indexes and let's actually pull this across and look at the 2 screens, daily and weekly. Weekly's on your left. On the daily, what do? On the SPX, we go over the top, back under. It's an over-under, but it's not a 2-bar because we actually had more volume. So a 2-bar reversal, not, right? Just an over-under. Looks like nothing serious at all, right? If you come over here and look at the weekly, you got a little doji starting to take place. The volumes are probably going to come out just a little bit thinner. That's a 2-bar reversal setting up on the weekly potentially. Okay, it's not there yet, but it's trying to set it up. So we'll see how that sets up. That's the S&P. That's the only one that doesn't look pretty clean. Go to the Dow. What was amazing is like the Dow had to come all the way up. It was the only index that had not made a new high. So what does the Dow do? It comes all the way back to the top, right? Big, strong V-shaped reversal one more time, to the top, over the top, less volume, tests the top, does a 2-bar reversal to boot, right? Fails at the highs on the weekly as well. That thing's set to come back. NASDAQ. What does the NASDAQ do? Well, the NASDAQ test, remember we had that high on the 26th. Had some volume on it. Oh, well, lo and behold, we go and test it finally. We have less volume. We get over it. We test. We fail. It's also setting up a 2-bar reversal on the weekly. NDX. Exact same story. 2-bar reversal potential over here. You go over, you test it. Already tested the highs. Test it one more time, fails again. That's twice. That one wants to come back as well. And then the Russell. Okay, now the Russell is the sweet one. And let's take a second and look at this guy. So on the Russell, you actually have right here a clean ledge that has been built. And that's actually a gap, and it didn't fill it today. I don't think it did. Let's see, 11:04:15, 11, yeah, 02:28. So the gap's still there. Okay, so the Russell comes in, wants to fill this gap tomorrow, and not only does it want to fill the gap, it went over, tested at the high. This is the 5th day testing that high volume high on lighter volume every time, and failing again, and starting to push off the top with volume and sitting right on the ledge at the close. That is not a good setup. I mean, it's a good setup if you want to go downtown, but it's not a good setup for a bullish perspective. This guy, once more, is telling us that he wants to fail and come back. I don't know if you're going to get a 2-bar reversal over here because the volume's starting to expand, but it does look like this thing's going to fill the gap and come back in and finally do the retest. Well, actually, it already did a retest regen, so that would just simply be coming back to support. So you'd come into this low, which is the breakout bar, and that high again, which is setting up that small support zone. It's not that far away. It won't take a lot to get there. So that's the Russell. Over here may or may not, right? So let's keep it on this screen size, and let's go look at the sectors because I want to see how these are setting up. So the indexes themselves are almost unanimous in that they want to go back down. And it's the cleanest set of signals I've seen in quite a while. You know, they don't ring the bell at the top. They don't ring it at the bottom or the top. And in this particular case, it appears that they're not ringing the bell again because it does look like this thing's going to try to come back the other way. Here's the IYT, comes off, no volume. See how these are setting up potential 2-bar reverse? I mean, look at the volume. This is pathetic. I mean, you're talking about tailing off volume as you go up. This just looks like it wants to fall a little bit. There's nothing special there. Semiconductors. Now, these are the guys that have been belligerent as can be, and I guess you should expect that when you had this kind of run. So did they go test the top again, or did they even get there? They tested this big bar one more time. They're going to fail on it. But that top had 1.3 on it. It was 41.44. Didn't quite get to it. That's, you know, basically testing the highs and failing, and it's a 2-bar reversal. Now the 2-bar here doesn't make quite as much sense because you already had the one big pullback, so that's kind of hard to call that a 2-bar, but you are at the highs after a pretty good move. Nah, it's not really, I wouldn't call that one a 2-bar. It's just not enough of a move in a short enough period of time. On the weekly, you're testing one more time up there. It looks like the volumes will be about the same. So this one's not that clean. It's certainly not saying it has to come back. It does look, you know, it's an over-under, so it will probably try to pull back given the rest of the market. Okay, XLB, test the top again. Okay, so the highs up here, 5.5, 5.7, 6.3. You test it with 5.3. So you test it with less volume across all of them and fail, and you get a decent sized bar, nothing big. This one, like the IWM, is coming back in on a kind of a wide price spread bar. That one looks to me like it's going to come straight in and test that high next to the high swing point high, which is 43.55, just above support. You got volume on that support bar too at 43.23. That looks to where that one's coming into. XLE. Now this is the one that gave it up before, it climbed all the way back up there, couldn't test it. Did it test it today? 87.59. Yeah, it did. 87.62. That's a clean failure at the top. That one's coming back. That's a clean failure. You go over it, you test it, you can't get over it, you're back the other way. Financials. These guys haven't been able to even get back up there. They're going to fail and fall flat on their face. They're going to come all the way back down to the bottom of the support zone. That one's still trying to come back. XLI, over the top, more volume, so it's an over-under. That can test again. It is probably not going to leave a 2-bar reversal over here. That one looks okay. XLK was the strongest one yesterday. And let's see if it tested the top. 33.91, it did. 5.4, had more volume, so that's just a over-under. Now this one actually can set up a 2-bar reversal on the weekly. The hard thing on the weeklies is, measuring extension, right? Is there enough extension here? And this probably doesn't have enough extension. XLP. So everybody was rotating into safety, and even though they were, it's going to come back and do retest regens off these highs that it broke. And this still, if you're going to be putting money somewhere, this probably still is the place to be looking. For two reasons. One, you're going to get some pressure, and two, that's where they run with pressure coming. Okay, XLU, that one over under, and same thing here. So not a big reversal setup. XLV, that one has more volume, so just an over under, and it did get back. Well, it's going to test that bottom tomorrow. The bottom of the support zone, 52.66. I expect it's going to blow right through it and come right back and do a retest regen. Actually, it already has. It's already done the retest regen. So back into this lower support zone. And this one is still a nice looking chart. XLV. XLY. Okay, that's a 2-bar reversal, and that's a clean one. It's not going to happen on the weekly, but it is happening on the daily. So I count about 3 or 4 there, and then 2 or 3 that kind of want to come back, and the rest of them okay. So index is much more bearish than what the sectors are. The Fed came out today. Fed really didn't say anything different. I read the statement as soon as it came out. The initial reaction we saw was the right one, and that is that bonds and the euro sold off, and that really is what clued me into that we were probably going to break down. Not only that, we were already, we went up first thing this morning on a gap up and tested on that Dow, and it sold off as soon as it hit it. We joked about it in the room today. Because it like went up there and died immediately. It was kind of funny. It was kind of amazing, actually. You run all the way up there only to just give it all up, right? So let's look at that dollar while we're here. All right, so the dollar goes in to do a retest regen off this low. You got 1.3 there. The breakdown bar's got 1 on it, and you did 1.2. That's going to test again. It's going to try to get over that retest regen bar. If it does, that's a big thing. Now, if you look at it on the weekly, though, here it's got a lot more trouble. And so, even though it may get over this one, that would be a little bit of a signal that something's happening, but it's probably going to die in its tracks as it tries to get back over all these. So I don't expect it to go far, but a little bit more of a bounce. And if I look at the FX, I pulled up the FXB. Let's see what that one looks like while I'm here. Yeah, it sold off again today. FXE is the one. Remember the other day, or was it last night, we were talking about these. They were all showing sell-offs. Okay, so this one wanted to try to get into this bar, 135.55. And it did. It did 384, so no contest. So even though the dollar is going to try to get a little bit more of a bounce, it ain't going to go far. and we're gonna have to see this go back up and fell at the highs. Now on the weekly, it's already doing a retest regen 136.03, and it's back into it. You'll want to see on the weekly, does it close under that high? Gold. So gold shoots up in front of the Fed, then shoots down as a result of the Fed, then climbs back up after the Fed. I mean, this was a crazy market today. And this looks like it's going to come back some more. Back into the bottom of this bar. 127.90. That will be, and actually if it comes in, volume just shrinks into there, it's going to be a beautiful setup, because then it's going to turn around and go back the other way one more time. Let me see if silver looks the same. And then I want to look at bonds, and then I'll flip over to your questions, because I see a lot of questions here tonight, and some on my emails too. Just takes a 0.5% decline to wake people up, huh? Okay, that's interesting. So silver actually is much stronger. Let me look at the bonds. So I think the gold's probably going to hold a little bit more of a retrace and then hold. Okay, the bond's still trying to come back in. And I wanted nothing to do with this today. I'd already sold out of my short. Although the short would have worked today if you were still in it. 107.28. So you're back into it, 11.7. And you're doing 8 there. Huh. That looks like it's going to come deeper, huh? Yeah, that looks like it's going to come deeper. So maybe this is the retrace that brings it all the way back to the support zone, which means rates are going to go up in that interval. So, you know, the bond's selling off. What is that telling you? It's telling you that they think the Fed's going to tighten, right? It's going to quit giving its free money away. Well, the Fed didn't say that, but people wanted an excuse to sell the market off, so they're going to say that. The other thing that happened was the dollar getting stronger. Same thing. Dollar gets stronger because there's going to be less dollars on the market, right? Fed's going to quit printing. So those two work in parallel. Those two were the first two that gave us a sign this morning, or actually this afternoon, that was probably what was going to happen. All right, let's see what you got here. Questions. Oh, I wanted to show y'all one thing here before I get started. Remember 2 nights ago, I ran across this today and I didn't realize it until today. 2 nights ago we were talking about, I don't remember how we brought it up, but we were talking about steel stocks, and I brought up the SLX, and I was talking about the SLX as a place to look, and then I flipped over to US Steel. And I told you US Steel, because I knew it had already had this bar back here. And so that was on this night that I was telling you that. It was, a little low volume, kind of doji there, and it just took off the next day. Of course, it, with today's pressure, didn't go any farther, but that was interesting. I didn't see that until today. So maybe somebody out there actually took advantage of that. That would be cool. All right, Fred. LA, great earnings on FB today, but the investors got spooked by some comments from the execs. F to good earnings. FB has a history of delayed reaction to good earnings. Does this look in line, the overall chart and the general market? In short, where is it going? It's actually interesting, Fred, because I sold some tonight on the pop after hours. And I sold it because I didn't like the way it was behaving, and I knew the conference call would come up. Let's put it up and look at it together. And I have no idea what was even said on the call. I just, a lot of times, because you're a member, I trade the charts. I don't really care what people are saying. So as we look at this, it's been bleeding, right? And then the volume's been picking up the last 2 times on the way back. Compare your volumes on the way back with your volumes on the way up. Right? You're bleeding kind of heavily, and I suspect, this thing traded up, I think it was at 60, here, let me pull up my thing, I think it was, what was it, 58 or something, 58 I think, after hours. It traded up to 58. If I can get it up here real quick, where is it at? Here we go. So FB was up Yeah, it traded up to 58, closed, it gave it all up. You know, it was up 12% or something, and it gave it all up. You know, I still like this stock. I just think that you make this kind of a run, you're going to get some sort of a pullback, and that's what's coming, right? And when you get up here and you can't hold your highs, right, and then you start selling off with more volume here, you climb all the way back up. That doesn't surprise me, right? And then now you're coming back. You're going to have big volume tomorrow. If this thing bleeds into this area tomorrow, right, so if you come back in here and you're looking at, you know, if you're looking at this area right here and you get into that and the volume expands, you're probably going to go deeper. And I would think you come back all the way into this bar. So somewhere around 42. Yeah, about 42. That's where it would get interesting again. Now, if we go over here, 42 is still way up here, right? It's the bottom of this, 42, 43. If that doesn't hold it, right, then you get the big retrace all the way back into this bar, 38.49. Excuse me, yeah, 38.49, 38 and a half. That would be the ideal place, 38 and a half and 34. Now, I don't know if it can come back that far. I think the best you can think in terms of how far it can fall is here, but it does look to me, especially given the after hours, I don't think, well, it wasn't, you know, social media is a fad right now, right, in terms of the market. They're bidding these things up as if they're, they're almost like the dot-coms back in 1999. They're bidding these things up like another dot-com boom burst. You got LinkedIn, look at LinkedIn and how its volumes show on its chart. LinkedIn's going to come all the way back to 200, right? That's probably where it's heading. And so it's not Facebook in isolation, it's across that group. And I haven't gone to look at all of them yet. Here's another one. I haven't looked at Z in a while. Let's see what Z looks like. But they're all way overpriced. Now Z doesn't look too bad, but you see the volumes and the way it trails. This thing's coming down too. The one I was looking at tonight is this one. Now this was a ridiculous move, Tesla. Now, of course, this was shorted like crazy. It was like 40% short back here on this breakout, and then it skyrockets. That was like at $40 if I remember right. Yeah, $40. So from $40 it goes to what, 200 in 5 months, 6 months? Folks, that's ridiculous. This thing's setting up to come back hard. And when they do this, you just got to get out of the way. So, yeah, I would definitely sell on a spike tomorrow if you get one. And you may get one first thing in the morning. I'd take it. I wouldn't mess around with it. Take your money, and then you can always buy them later, right? Tommy, last night, GDX, I talked about it. Seems like GDX will fell with the rest of the market. It did come back today. Yeah, it did. It came back today, but yes, it probably will fail tomorrow. And mainly because I think that the market is going to have a hard time tomorrow. So, GDX will be the same sort of thing where, it gives it up a little bit. But I still think these golds are acting well, right? I mean, go look at some of the gold stocks that are out there. I mean, you can pick any of them. The one that I talked about not all that long ago was AEM, that had big earnings, right? Big spike up in earnings. This thing came back and they bought it, right? And stocks that had great earnings are going to get bought, and that's true of gold. That's true of everything. They're just going to retrace some. So yeah, you can get a retrace on these, but the whole sector as a whole, compared to what the gold didn't look too bad today. But yeah, some sort of drift back in. I still think they're worth looking at though. Next question, nothing there. Let me go to my emails then. So LA, I just want to say thank you for being honest with us. I was really touched when last night you honestly said you were net short. Or that time I bought several newsletters before. Everyone has always covered their mistakes. You're a decent man. Well, I thought this was a question. I guess not. It's really just, someone appreciating my honesty. And also, it's really helpful for you informing us to place limit orders before the market open. And this is one of the subscribers over in Taiwan. Folks, I'm an outsider. I'm not an insider. I never worked on Wall Street. I don't even want to work on Wall Street. I did have dreams when I was a kid of working in the pits up in Chicago because I love the futures markets. But, I'm not an insider. I was an engineer most of my life. And a lot of what you see me do, all these things you see, these tools, all this stuff, these are things we built, because I am an engineer. The models, the whole neoclassical concepts. I've read many books. I've taken ideas from here and there, but a lot of this stuff you see is original ideas. They're patent pending on them. So I just tell you what I see. I'm very honest about what I do. I try to offer a reasonable product, a reasonably priced product that is, in my opinion, worth more than anything I've ever bought for myself when I was doing this stuff. And I appreciate that very much, Chang. I appreciate you taking the time to write me to tell me that, you really appreciated what I did. And I try to do that each and every day for you. So, all right, tomorrow. And I'm going to be gone. I probably won't have a wrap tomorrow, so I will not have a wrap tomorrow. I expect this market, this has been a bull market. So you're not going to see this thing give up easy. But I do think this thing's going to have a hard time tomorrow. And as a result of that, it's going to trade heavy. Now what you have to expect, and the way these things usually work, is that when this thing trades heavy for a couple days, you really want to see what it comes back into and how it does it. So if we take the SPX, where's the first place you want to look? Well, any gaps. There's a gap here, and there's a little small gap right there. 1753. Yeah, so you got a little small gap right here that it's going to come into first. So the question tomorrow will be is how does it handle that gap? I expect it's going to blow right through it. The real gap is here, and that's your retest regen there. If it gets back down in that area, especially if it does it fast, that's more than 6 bars, right? What have I told you? More than 6 bars, it's almost a blind buy. Especially if it does it fast. So if you come straight back 3 bars down or 2 bars down and you hit that, you got to expect a bounce. Then that sets up the potential for something larger, right? And what I mean by that is you go back up and you see if you can get back above those highs or not. That's the way you try to measure this thing. You let the market tell you that is neoclassical. You let the market tell you what it's trying to do, and you measure it. You look at it and measure it, and you have these things like 6 bars that give you good indications of what can happen. Let the market tell you what it wants to do, and just follow it around. Most of the time, it will tell you the truth. Sometimes you'll read it wrong. Sometimes you'll miss something. But most of the time, you'll probably figure it out. And then you can profit by it. Folks, have a great night. I really appreciate you being there. You tell a friend, tell 2, heck, tell 3 what we do, what I try to provide for you. If you haven't tried us out, come try us out. Come over here, pop in here, check out the free trial. It's 2 weeks for nothing. If you buy a book, get a month for nothing. Just check it out. If you're really serious, buy a book because you can get the education, right? Buy this book first. That's the model. That's the theory. That's the neoclassical thought. And then use that with all the information on the site. When you're ready, come in, check it all out. I'm gone. Have a good one. Thanks. Good night.